The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and I am excited for you to be here today. We are tuning in wherever you're streaming in from here on E360 TV. It is all about engaging conversation, elevating health and wellness, and empowering transformation. And before we get started, just so you know that at the bottom of how you're tuning in, you're going to see some show notes in the comments, and so make sure that you remember that so that you can reference that later on as we are moving through the show. And so without further ado, we do know that when it comes to overall health and wellness, it is not just fitness, it is also mental health. It is every facet of optimal living. And so this is such an incredible time for me to bring up my next guest, because she is a rock star in and of her own right. Her name is Barbara Brooks. She is the founder of Second Act Women. It's a company built to boost women 40 plus. She's a branding and visibility speaker, hype woman for females in their 40s, their 50s, and 60s and beyond. She's got a 20-year award-winning marketing and public relations career, plus a successful broadcast sales career. Second Act Women and Allies help fuel female business owners and career professionals, delivering peer-to-peer professional and personal workshops, conferences, tools, and curated content to 5,000 plus all-female community, giving the boost needed to take businesses, careers, and the lives, especially as we enter this part of our lives, because we're not at some point we're not going to be 20 anymore, taking those careers off of autopilot and really putting it into their encore years. So Barbara and her company have been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, the Denver Post, and Next Avenue by PBS, to name a few. And guess what? She was awarded recently the top 25 most powerful businesswomen 2023 by Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. And in 2022, an influencer in aging by Next Avenue. Quite a lot of credentials, but definitely a level expert in our topic for today. So without further ado, let me bring up our next guest, Barbara Brooks. How are you this morning?
I'm doing so well. How are you? That was a mouthful, right?
It is, but you know what? It's worth sharing, because you bring some street cred to the table, especially as we're looking into our later years, and we're still wanting to dominate the areas that are most important to us. So I want to get started with, can you tell us a little bit, can you fill in the blanks about that and how you got to be an expert in all of these areas and helping us women over 40, over 50, and 60 and beyond really continue to be successful in their careers and businesses?
So it all started when I left corporate America in 2011, and I launched. At the time, I was looking for a new job because I had lost that position at my dream job, and I was looking for a position back in corporate because that's who I was. I was a corporate woman. And unfortunately, I couldn't find anything. And so during, I'd say about the first 5 months of being out of work and looking for a position, I just decided to listen to people and start a marketing and public relations company. And that was 2011. And in doing so, I started getting more and more clients on board. And I decided, okay, well, I guess this is my next gig. And so at the time, I was in my early 40s, mid 40s. And so I launched a company. I then had a business partner come on board who I'd met in my previous career, mall industry. I'm a marketer, business development person from the mall industry. Yes, there are people behind the scenes in malls. And so I invited someone I had met before, Guadalupe Hurt, to come on board and let's partner up. And we created a second company. It was a marketing public relations company. And then Fast forward to 2018, we both sort of wanted to put entrepreneurship aside, and I wanted to go back into corporate. And at the time, Lupe wanted to go into corporate for the first time ever at, I think, 48 or so at the time. And so, in doing so, I had ageism come up. I didn't recognize that it was ageism at the time because, once again, I couldn't find a job. And at that time, I was 51 in 2018. And so I decided to take another idea off the shelf and create a company that at the time was focused on women as a whole. Age didn't matter. And as a marketer by trade, I listened to my audience. So I listened to the people and did a lot of brainstorming sessions with various women of all ages, mostly though, by happenstance, they were all over 40. And lo and behold, I started hearing something over and over and over that women over a certain age, as they like to say, were being left behind. And so many of us were starting companies or they couldn't find jobs. So I created Second Act Women. I created a company called Bloom Co. Presents because I felt like I had found my thing and I was blooming. And under Bloom Co. Presents was Second Act Women. And so here I launched this company in 2018 and here we are today. Fast forward, went through COVID and all of that, which, wow, we'll talk about at some point, I'm sure. Launched an event company to help women over 40 and 50 plus really have their own encore careers, level up in ways, and also start their own companies through workshops, as you said, at conferences. But also the important part was peer-to-peer development. So it was, coming from women and allies, in essence, that were been there, done that, and doing it still.
And it's incredible that we're growing as a community of voices for women being older. I experienced what I would suspect as ageism a few years back, but it really devastated me because I never thought that age would be an issue for the talents that I bring to the table. What were some of the feelings that you went through when it first hit you, like, uh-oh, now we've got ageism on the radar, and now I've got to grapple with this?
Well, for me, it was code words on phone interviews. So no videos. So on phone interviews, the first time around in 2011, and then the second time around also in 2018, there were code words. There were ways in which they were asking how far back does my experience go. There were the feeling as you go through so many interviews or get ghosted, frankly. But in the interviews, there was the feeling of not, and this is how the corporate women feel too, the feeling of not being heard, undervalued, being seen, all of those things actually started to come about. I actually started to undervalue myself. I started to feel unseen and as I said, unheard and uninspired because I was being told really that I had expired. That once I hit a certain age, that suddenly my experience, my values, my judgment that I bring to the job and all of those things were not enough. And that suddenly I was, put on a shelf to, I guess, in society's, live the rest of my life, jobless, careerless, when in actuality, I have, 40 more years of which 20 or 25 of those, I, would like to still remain in the workforce. So I think it was just those ageist feelings and those ageist things that were being said or done or unsaid, and that you just picked up on, that you recognize that, oh gosh, all right. So there's something more to this story. I'm not getting hired for some other reasons. And then, I actually didn't have my aha moment that it was ageism until a year into Second Act Women. And it wasn't until I looked back after listening to, again, other women, I started thinking, oh my gosh, that's exactly what was happening with me.
I mean, it's funny because I don't recall ever hearing of women, older women talking about this before. Have you ever, would you say that there was like whispers or conversations that you came across before you were experiencing it yourself? Because I know for me, I just don't
No.
have those conversations.
We didn't have those conversations, and mostly because we also didn't want to admit maybe that there was a problem. We also didn't want to admit our age, or as I like to call it, our chapter number. So why have those conversations if we are avoiding what is in front of us? So you're absolutely right. We didn't, and as you can see, my chapter number, my age is 56, and I proudly exclaim that. And as I like to say, and others are saying these days, I look my age. And so it was really about, it's really about us having those conversations now. And so that's what my company is about, and others that are also in this same space now, this other ism that's been left behind. And so we're now having those conversations. We're also having conversations about, which we didn't in the past, nor did our moms or their moms,
That's true.
talk about mental health, menopause, what happens to your brain when you're peri, when you're in it, when you're post. Those conversations, again, were not those that showcased and demonstrated and even like outright said, I'm a woman of this age. We avoided those, and we shouldn't, because it's a privilege. Literally, you and I have just aged about 10 minutes, and it's a privilege because that means we're breathing and we're on this earth. So why avoid what's happening to us every second of the day?
That's true. That's true. And I'll tell you, I'm 50. I just turned 50 earlier this year. And I'm very proud.
Welcome to the club.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It only gets better. Oprah was right.
Yes. And you know what? And it's the right mindset. And I feel like, we're emerging as women, being able to move that needle further in society. There's still some grappling that we're still dealing with. Would you say?
There absolutely is. And it's interesting because out of all if we're talking corporate America, and then we'll talk entrepreneurship, secondly, in corporate America, of those companies that have diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of their initiatives, of those, only 8% of those with those DE&I initiatives even include age as one of the isms. And below that is ableism. So there are two isms that are still sitting out there that no one is talking about, that everyone is avoiding in corporate America. Yet, if they were to understand that when you have an intergenerational team, creativity, productivity, teamwork, all of that increases, which ultimately increases the bottom line. So in corporate America, there needs to be change. There needs to be an addition to their DE&I initiatives. There needs to be discussions. And I am also a public speaker, and I speak to aging in the workplace and personal branding in the workplace and relevancy and all of those things, and providing tools and resources. And every time, it's been really fascinating to at least be able to speak to those companies that get it, like the Western Unions and Blend, which is a tech company, and a local credit union here in Colorado, and some of the other companies that I am now speaking to that get it. They not only have ERGs, which are employee resource groups that have pods of diverse groups of people, from women to LGBTQ plus to Black to Hispanic to you name it, to caregiving, parents, groups that are now living within these organizations. But that's not enough. That's great that those amazing companies get it. We need more companies to understand that we bring wealth.
Yes. Yes. Do you think that, is it easier to engage in conversations? Do you find that companies are realizing that you represent this space when you're speaking to them and they are eager to have the conversation? Or do you feel like it's still something that you're initiating so that they can really take a look at the bigger picture with ageism and moving the needle forward?
I feel like when COVID happened, suddenly everyone called it the great resignation, but in actuality, for humans over a certain age, it was the great push out. It really was the great push out, because they were now trying to figure out how to lessen their dollars and lower their budgets and be able to survive. And so to do that, it's, sometimes it's first in, first out, but it also was those people that were in their eyes taking up a large portion of the salary pie. So, and that happens to be a lot of times people over 35, 40. And so, so what happened? So it's interesting that now that we're post pandemic, I believe now, because there's a lot more discussion on age and inclusion as a whole, as a Black woman, I can tell you, because of what has happened, sadly, what had happened during COVID, other things were brought to the forefront, and diversity, inclusion, belonging, equity, equality, all those things are now suddenly being talked about. Now it's my job and the jobs of others that I work really in tandem with that are doing similar things that I'm doing, modern Gen X women, the changing the narrative and next 50, I feel like it's our job now to continue the conversation of that part of inclusion and belonging, and adding that humans, I focus on women, but really humans over a certain age need to be heard and valued and seen and understood.
And I'm wondering, as you're saying this, because this is really good, I'm wondering if maybe because of the level of fear and uncertainty that came with COVID, that companies, in order to continue to evolve with the times, that they were forced to embrace inclusion where maybe they would not have initially have come up with the idea themselves, would you say?
Yeah, that's exactly true. Back in the day, it was about literally checking a box. And I'm going to admit to you, I was that person that after a certain point, and I didn't even think about the age part. I more or less thought about, I'm a Black woman who wants this job and knows I'm great at it. And I've got the degree and I've got this, that, and the other. So let me get my foot in the door by having on my resume my picture, so that I have to admit, check one of their boxes, but also in them checking a box by interviewing me, then listening and hearing and understanding that I'm also the person they need to hire, because I'm good. I'm good at marketing and public relations. And actually back in the day, I had to say back in the day, because ageism is coming into play, I was that person that was getting 85% of the positions that I was going for. And so, so now it's not about putting the age or showing up or showing the gray or showing, sadly, who you are as a human being at this time of life, because they may not, in the past at least, now it is checking a box, but also in that interview, we hope that in the future, they're also listening to us. But now it's funny because age and ageism and ableism has now become another box that they check off. And so hopefully, again, those companies that I named earlier get it, and they understand diversity is key. But there's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work. I mean, the world is aging. There is a point in time that more people will be over 50 than other age groups, because we're not having kids. We're not having as many kids. And frankly, the world is aging, and we're aging at the same rate in a sense. The millennials and Gen Xers are the ones that are really going to be ruling the world, frankly, in the next 10 to 15 years.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back here on the Health Revolution.
Coming this spring, by popular demand, the second season show on the Tour of Love.
And the E360 TV platform is saying we want the Tour of Love.
With winner of the first Global Impactor Award, Tamara Hunter, along with Emmy-winning co-host Skip Thomas.
We are going on tour, on the road. It's time. Love unites, and there is healing through connections. This is a worldwide movement, the Tour of Love.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. We've been spending some much quality time with my guest today, Barbara Brooks. She is a branding and visibility strategist, a speaker, a woman who has done such incredible work to help other business women and career professionals, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. We've been talking about ageism and just how we've been moving the needle going forward and having the ever-evolving conversations, especially in the workforce. And so, Barbara, we were talking about how things are changing. You were mentioning that it's going to be the millennials. We're growing. We're getting older in general. Just all together. Tell me, what do you notice the biggest curiosity with learning more from those of us who are getting older? Like, what conversations have you had with those who maybe have not yet been in our age room or age range?
Yeah. So that's a tough question because one, I don't have little ones. I don't have kids. I have a fur ball. So it's not as if I'm having conversations within my household. And most of the people that I surround myself with are over 40. However, what I'm hearing from moms of kids and also when I've spoken at colleges and other places is there's the curiosity. There's actually an open arms of wanting to learn, hear, and I wouldn't say heed our advice yet, but I think it's curiosity about aging as a whole and not recognizing that this is an issue and thinking and also the idea that they're hearing from their parents, their moms in their kitchens and dining rooms, complaining about not being able to land that job or complaining about feeling as if, when the kids are out of the household, that what do they do next? What is their encore career or what will they be doing after if they had stayed home? So I can't necessarily answer the questions of what people are saying that are in other age groups. What I can tell you is what I've experienced, though, in having a few people that were in their 20s and 30s, or 20s really, the Zennials, is I wish that the Zennials would listen more. I feel like they know it. They're in that know-it-all phase. I don't remember ever being that way as a Gen Xer. It was listening and learning and not saying much in meetings, frankly, and picking up what my bosses or what people around me were putting down in the idea in the area of learning and listening and managing. How are they managing people? How are they managing crises? And really just listening and not being the know-it-all. And so I was having a conversation last week with someone's intern because they had asked me for branding questions. And we were, they'd asked me to come over and talk to them about branding. She's launched her own company that's focused on ableism. And it was really interesting because her intern just didn't want to listen. He didn't want to listen to the idea that, when it comes to showing up, that he just didn't want to listen. I actually got to a point where I said, does everything have to be your way? I mean, it kind of would be best if you maybe heed some of my advice. And so I got a little frustrated and I thought, so what they say about Zennials might actually be true, that they think they know it all and don't want to listen. And, because he was steadfast and no, the font needs to be this and the video needs to be landscape instead of whatever the conversation was about. And, and the lettering needs to be on top of, anyway, yeah.
So it seems like, and I feel like I'm learning and go as I go at the same time, that to commit to that level of openness to hear, even though say we're certain of our stance. So then we look at ageism and we think, maybe there's more to it. Or say if more people decide that there's more to than what we've concluded, capabilities, input, ideas, teamwork, all of that. So it seems as though that level of openness is essential. And if we close ourselves off, then we're cutting off the option to learn more.
Yeah, and I also think, some because I sort of had two sides as I'm thinking about this, about there's an openness and a willingness to learn in some younger folks that are younger than me, and then there's not in others. So I think it also comes down to, as simple as it is how were they raised? We were not allowed to be in adult conversations when I was raised. So that also meant respecting people of a certain age and calling them Mr. and Mrs. and listening to them, and maybe having your own opinion, with your friends behind closed doors or what have you. So I also think it's some of that, and I think some of the way people are parenting, it seems, and I think it's neat, is letting them have their own voice, which is extremely important. But there's also a point in time where you also have to have that voice, but also have a respectful voice, and understand that maybe perhaps someone who's about 20 years older than you might actually have a valid point. I'm not saying we're right all the time at all. Yeah. And I actually enjoy being mentored by, I had an intern that was in her mid-20s, and I was in my mid-40s at the time, and I learned a lot from her, and she learned a lot from me. And we still have the relation. She's in her her early 30s or mid-30s now, and we remain friends. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. What allows you, or what tools do you like to tap into to help navigate this point in time in your life? I know you've got a lot of different things happening. I've been privileged to know you for a couple of years now. And what are some things that help you navigate through these chapters, even if there's a level of uncertainty ahead?
For me, it's surrounding myself, and this is going to sound so cliche, but it's absolutely true. It's surrounding yourself around the right people. And not letting people, if they go down the rabbit hole of wanting to blame their age for this, that, or the other, it's lifting them up and letting them know that, wait, this is actually a good thing. And maybe that company just wasn't the right company that you were applying for. That's actually how I started looking at it, frankly, is if I wasn't being selected for a position, well, that just meant that I was not a culture fit on both ends. So I think it's also, the tool for me now, admittedly, my mom has always been proud of her age. So me owning my age has always been a part of my DNA. But I guess it's just having these open conversations and dialogue, which within my community, I notice the women are really excited about being amongst their peers, to be able to be there for one another and talk about, the mental side and all the 32 symptoms that comes with menopause that even our doctors don't tell us about. So I don't know. I guess the tools and resources really starts with finding the right community and the right space, and having the dialogue with the right people that are willing to listen and sort of, not even listen, but both of you are, the group is coming together to support one another. I think it's very important, and it's not crabs in a barrel anymore. With Gen Xers. I don't know if it ever was with Gen X, maybe more so with boomers, crabs in a barrel. It feels like, and I need to come up with another analogy, because it really feels like we're all sort of rising together and wanting to help. If I'm here, I have somebody who's coming back to lift me up, and coming back to lift me up, and coming back, and so on and so forth. So
this is, I love how you say that. And I totally forgot about that phrase. Looking at your overall, where you are in optimizing your position and where you want to be in life, business wise, and segueing into entrepreneurship. So what helped you, in case there are viewers out there who are like, okay, great, I don't like where I'm at. I feel like I'm stuck in my career. I don't know where to turn, and I don't know if there's any woman out there that's similar to me. What are some ways that helped you to create that foundation to then keep going in on the path that you decide that, you know what, this is what's best for me, and I need to trust it.
Yeah, and first of all, I did not plan this ring, by the way, to match my backdrop. I just have to say, I have ADHD that I just learned about. I knew something was going on with my brain, I think, all my life, but I just found out at 56. So that's my squirrel moment. Squirrel! I did not plan this ring to go with my backdrop. But I have to say, vision boarding and goal setting, that is so big. I mean, we all had to goal set, at least a lot of us in corporate America. We always had to set our goals, our budgets, our revenue projections, or whatever, depending on, what industry you were in. So for me, vision boarding, and also it's going back to being around those same people that are really inspired to do more, be more, want more out of their lives. I'm not saying all my friends do, nor will that be the same or be true for all of us, but I would say career visioning. If entrepreneurship is not your thing, but if entrepreneurship, or you have a side gig that you want to turn into, you want to move from entrepreneurship to small business ownership, which there is a difference between the two, then I say, at least for me, it's putting pen to paper. You will always find me with a piece of paper, always, or my cell phone that has a notepad, is writing down where I want to be, where I've been, where I want to go, where I am right now, and putting pen to paper and starting with a plan. Because a lot of times we will just think, now this is the detriment, that's the wrong word. This is the thing, that when you hit a certain age, you also think that sometimes we think we're know-it-alls. So we just hit the ground running because we have a great idea. We have a problem we want to solve, because that's what business ownership is about. You have a problem, your target audience has a problem, and you have the unique solution. So you hit the ground running and you're at it, but you don't have a plan. You don't know your revenue stream. You don't know who really you're targeting. You heard of the problem that you want to solve and you have the solution, but do you really? And if you do, have you really kind of like found who it is, that person that really needs your solution? And so for me, it's taking, and listen, I was the cobbler without shoes. And by the way, one time I said I was the cobbler without shoes to my intern who was in high school. And she said, "What does a peach pie have to do with shoes?" And
Oh, no.
like, okay. I meant a shoemaker without shoes. I don't know. I'm not great at analogies, so that's the only analogy I had at the time. But really, I'm giving advice that I didn't follow, that I wish I had. Even starting Second Act Women, my third company, is just taking a step back, doing research, doing some strategy work, listening even more. I mean, I had done that. I'd listened to my potential audience, but I think it's having a plan written, even if it's a one-page business plan or a one-pager about what it is you want to do and how you're going to solve that problem. That is what I always recommend anybody who's ready to take that leap.
I love how you say that, because I think that seems to me like when someone chases their dreams or chooses to become an entrepreneur or say a small business owner, I mean, in essence, they're fine tuning the things that really speak to them. So then there's that level of positive mindset of, this is an area of life that I want to pursue that really speaks to me. So they're not compromising. So it is getting pickier to an extent. And then the other piece behind it that I wanted to add to what you were saying is that as we're getting older, And I'm going to assume that you were very likely the case, as well as for me. I felt like I was getting confident when I was younger. I felt like I was timid. I didn't raise the bar enough, and so I just went with the crowd. And I just, okay, I'm supposed to do this or I'm supposed to do that when it comes to my future.
Yeah.
But as we get older, now we're making some decisions that are selfish in a good way. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. And and on top of that, the confidence, listen, I thought Oprah was nuts when she said, I was sitting in my mid 30s and she had turned 50 and she said, it only gets better with age. And I thought, are you kidding me? 50 is old. What are you talking about, Oprah? And then once I started getting older and older, and yes, oh my gosh, everybody is right. When you hit 50, I don't know what it is about 50. You just get that confidence. You get really excited about learning more about yourself. You get really excited about being okay with expressing to people or finding out, because maybe you didn't know it, that you have ADHD or you're living with depression and you're not hiding it anymore. Even if you found out in your 40s, you're proud to say, listen, I'm living with depression, which by the way, I am. And so with that, there's this calmness, this odd calmness. Now, the only thing, when I was doing consulting work in the two companies, is what happens is our confidence and our experience level sits so high that we also think we don't need to learn from other people. We don't need to take advice from other people. I can do it. Even though I've never done marketing in my life, I've got this. I'm going to create a business coaching, life coaching, market, or financial planning company, whatever it may be, and I've got this. I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to listen to anybody else, no matter how much I probably should. And that's where burnout happens, because you didn't listen, because you thought you were so confident that you could grow to a 6-figure, 7-figure company. But you didn't do some of those things. You didn't listen to people. You didn't have a plan. And you weren't open-minded about, how it is you build a sustainable company. And so too often then burnout happens because we didn't listen. We didn't do the work. We didn't do the prep work. We didn't do any of those things that we needed to do. And so that's when burnout happens. And you're also stuck with, how am I going to pay next month's bill? I took out my 401k and la, la, la. Well, guess what? You didn't figure out your revenue streams. You didn't sit down and really figure out, where is this business vision, having a business vision. And because confidence is queen. And it's great to have this confidence that we have. I am not harping on that at all, but also there's a curiosity, and we have to continue to want to learn from others, no matter the age, to continue to grow that company or that business or that idea or even your career to where it is you want it to be.
I couldn't agree more. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back right after this.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. We've been spending some quality time with Barbara Brooks, my guest today, branding and visibility strategist. She is a speaker. She works in helping women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s really, truly recreate their comeback story in their careers and their professions. And so, Barbara, we were talking about, you mentioned some do's and don'ts when it comes to things that have allowed, say, many of us women to feel stuck if we limit ourselves based on the type of growth we want to experience. So talk to us about what are some ways to really, what are some elements to turn things around? And then I want to talk about second act women.
So can you ask that question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we were talking about how there were some limitations that we women sometimes find ourselves in if we think that we can't have the right conversations, we can't have, or that we know it all, or we don't take in additional input. So turning that situation around, what are some truly reliable tools, foundational elements to help us do that? And then as you kind of share your thoughts, I definitely want you to talk about second act women and what it stands for.
So some of the tools that I have used to even because listen, I was a know-it-all. So, like I said, and I also had mentioned that, I started 3 companies without having a plan. I would never do that again, but without a plan. But some of the tools that each city, for one thing, I think we have to take a step back. So if you are going to start that company, each city has, development offices that are there to help you, small business administration offices, and women's chambers, community organizations like mine and others that are there to give you those tools and those resources to help you grow and also grow mentally, and also grow your business, who you are, as I said, mentally, and understand a little bit more about what this time of life is about. And so I guess the tools, and I guess it's finding community is what I would say, so that you could see that especially when you're amongst your peers, that you have an understanding that it's okay to ask for help. And because I think that's really where it stems from, the confidence. Also, if you're asking for help, that's sort of saying, oh, I am vulnerable, and we never want to feel vulnerable as women. We already can feel that because of age. So I think knocking down that vulnerable wall, that feeling of vulnerability, and being okay with asking for help and asking others to kind of help get you to the next phase, or introduce you to that contact or that brand, so you can land that brand collab or whatever. I mean, don't go it alone. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
No,
don't go it alone. There is an entire community of women, no matter where you live, that will always be there for you, and frankly, that are going through the same damn thing that you're experiencing. So you are not alone, sister.
Yes. Now, I came to know you through second act women, and as you're sharing this, that's how I looked at it, as, oh wow, this is a resource. Wow, this is This is an organization that's really supportive of women over 40. So talk a little bit about Second Act Women and talk about like where it's going.
Yeah, so exciting. So the company is so I heeded the same advice that I just gave. I lost my not that I shouldn't say it that way. My business partner left the company. This was our third company together. Love her, still good friends, but she burned out. And I get it because I burned out at the beginning of this year. She left in October. I burned out. I was actually ready to let go of the company and or move the company to a side gig. And then coaches need coaches. Not that I'm a coach per se, but coaches need coaches. And I listened to two women in particular that have a similar company like mine out of New York City. And I got re-engaged and I'm in my company. And so what happened was pen to paper. I literally have this entire binder full of my marketing plan, my strategy, my revenue streams. I reframed where we were going with the company post-COVID because we had started as an event company where we were going to create all these magnificent, events for women. Age didn't matter at the beginning. Across the country, we launched the company with a conference called Biz LifeCon. Once we determined, by the way, that we were going to serve women over 40, launched it in 2019, the conference that is. And then COVID happened the following year. We did 2 Biz LifeCons in 2019. COVID happened, and we had to figure out where the company was going. But we didn't do our due diligence at the time we didn't know where the company was going. We were just floundering like every other company, like trying all kinds of things, workshops and virtual this and virtual that and this, that, and the other. So when Lupe left and I got re-energized, I guess this year, about 3 months ago, I decided in writing my revenue plan and forecasting and figuring out where I wanted Second Act Women to go, I now determined that I'm going to serve 2 customers in a sense. I'm doing corporate speaking to talk about aging in generational teams, aging in the workplace, personal branding so that you can maintain or grow your influence in your corporate position. And then the second part of what we do is now going back to the event planning of large-scale conferences, mid to large-scale conferences, serving the business owner, serving the career women with CareerCon, the business owner with Biz LifeCon, and we're bringing on a caregiving conference because we don't talk enough about caregiving, and we're in that sandwich generation. So we've got caregiving boot camp 101 that's coming next year, and then to serve the life component, which we always include life in every single one of our conferences because that's what our lives are. It's business and life have now converged because we allowed our coworkers into our rooms, our homes. But we're bringing back our unplugged retreat, which will be hopefully in the mountain towns of Colorado, which is where I'm sitting. So to answer your question, round it up into one big pretty package. We are now going back to being a conference company that's providing all these amazing workshops and then also public speaking. And so, and then we'll have workshops here and there that our insider members will be leading, and I will serve as their marketing arm to promote the event. But yeah, and there's a lot behind the scenes that I have planned and have projected for the company for the next 5 years. I've got some big plans. I will also be launching a podcast like everybody, but ours, I promise you, will be different with my big personality and the people that I would like to have as part of my, part of my community, my podcast / vlogcast, because it'll be on YouTube. We're going to be talking and tackling a lot of the important issues for women over 40, specifically over 50.
That's fantastic. So just to be clear, so Second Act Women is going to have that conference, that element. and that others can, and we put up the screen so that you also viewers can see here. Tell us a little bit about the next event that's coming up, because I want to make sure that those who tune in are know about that. Tell us a little bit more about BizLifeCon.
Yes. So BizLifeCon launched this entire company, as I said a moment ago, and it is a live and virtual conference, live in Denver, Colorado. And it is, as it says here, 18 really amazing micro master classes, panels, roundtables, panel discussions. Keynote. One keynote in particular is coming in from Minnesota. She is the co-founder of While Women, which is a nutrition supplement company that is there for us, women over 35, 40. And she is coming in, by the way. They did a deal. They have an investment by Serena Williams, Weil does. And so Julie is coming in. We've got pop-up shops. We have a lot going on, all within the 2 days here in Denver and virtually on Zoom, where we are talking AI and copywriting. We are talking financial planning for your company, though. We're talking menopause and those 32 symptoms. We're talking mental health, branding, marketing, you name it. This conference is really to help build up the companies, the women that are looking to launch a company, or frankly, who have had a company for many years and maybe need refresher courses, and a lot of connecting and morning mimosas and mock mimosas as well.
And just to let everybody know that it is the weekend. It is Friday, October 20th and Saturday, October 21st. And just to let you know, we're going to take a very quick break. We're going to be right back here on the Health Revolution.
Jeff Pearson here, host of Invisible Condition, where we talk about all the people who are living and thriving with all those conditions that you can't necessarily see from the outside. Join me every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison. We've been spending time with Barbara Brooks, a branding and visibility speaker, hype woman. And Barbara, as we're wrapping things up, we are starting to run out of time. Do you have anything coming up? You talked about your having a podcast coming up. We talked about Second Act Women. Let's go ahead and let's bring up the website again so that everyone can see. Is there anything that you have coming up as we enter 2024?
Yes, Denver Startup Week. It's the largest free entrepreneurial event in the world. Over nearly 20,000 people come into Denver for it. And it's happening September 18th to the 22nd. And for 5 years in a row, we've been blessed enough to lead a workshop specifically for women. And so we made the cut once more. And so we, along with quite a few of our insider paid members, because we're a paid membership, that's one of our revenue streams. I like to be very honest with that, because I think we need to talk about revenue and money and all of that as female owners. And so quite a few of our paid members and non-paid members of Second Act Women have workshops that they too have gotten into Denver Startup Week. And then CareerCon is coming back in February of 2024. It's going to be spectacular. It's a great way for women to level up and really be amongst their own kind, to help them feel like or help them understand that we're the future. Women over 40 are the future.
Yes, we are. And so for our viewers to get in touch with Barbara, you can always reach out to her on secondactwomen.com. And so for those of you, and we're starting to run out of time, Barbara, I appreciate you being here. And for everyone else who is also tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, remember, you can always stay in touch with the show. You can, our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. And we are on E360 TV here on the Achieve TV channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so wherever you're tuning in from, feel free to hit the subscribe button. We are so grateful that you are here and that you're taking away nuggets. And that is all the time that we have. My name is Adriana Morrison. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you soon.